All right, today we are diving into something that might just be one of the biggest breakthroughs in AI efficiency we've seen in a while. We're talking about a quest for what you could call the holy grail of vector search.
And it all starts right here. There's this quiet, nagging problem that's been a huge headache for machine learning engineers. Simply put, vectors are expensive. And I don't mean expensive in some abstract academic way. I mean expensive in cold, hard cash on your cloud computing bill. You know, the kind of bills that make a CFO sweat.
So, let's get right into it. What exactly makes these vectors, these building blocks of AI, so ridiculously pricey? Because the math here is, well, it's pretty brutal. And it has massive implications for who can even afford to play in the big leagues of AI. Okay, get this. If you take just 1 million documents, which isn't even that many in the grand scheme of things, and you turn them into vectors with a pretty standard model, you're looking at 3 gigabytes of super expensive cloud RAM just to hold them. Now try to scale that up to 1 billion documents. Yeah, you see the problem. It's why this has been a playground mostly for the tech giant.
So that brings up a really important question. What if the answer isn't just throwing more money and more powerful hardware at the problem? What if there's a smarter way? A shortcut that could change the entire game? And believe it or not, that shortcut comes from a place most of us probably haven't thought about since, high school math class. It's a concept that's been around for over 100 years, but applying it to AI, well, that's brand new, and it is incredibly powerful. On one hand, you have Euclidean space, the flat, predictable world of grids and straight lines we all learned about. But on the other hand, you have hyperbolic space, and this stuff is wild. It's a weird curved geometry where space itself just kind of explodes outwards exponentially as you move away from the center. And here's the key. That exponential growth makes it unbelievably good at representing things with a hierarchy. Think of a family tree. On a flat piece of paper, it gets crowded really fast. But in hyperbolic space, there's always more room the further out you go. It's perfect for anything that branches out, like a tree, or, as it turns out, like human language. And this leads to a really simple, but kind of genius idea. Language isn't flat, right? It has structure. Words make sentences, sentences make paragraphs, paragraphs build ideas. It's a hierarchy. So what if we stopped trying to cram that tree-like structure onto a flat grid, and instead we put it into a space that's naturally shaped for it? So they took this idea and they put it to the test. And the results? Whoa. They weren't just good, they were the kind of results that challenge years of thinking in this field. Okay, just look at the raw numbers here. The gold standard model, MPNet, gets a performance score of about 0.83, but it needs a whopping 768 dimensions. The industry standard is right behind it at 0.82, with 384 dimensions. But now, look at the hyperbolic model. At just 128 dimensions, a third of the size of the standard, it scores at 0.819. That's basically the exact same performance. I mean, this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Look at those huge bars on the left. That's the computational cost of the old way. And then look at the tiny little slivers on the right for the hyperbolic model. It's not just a little better, it's in a completely different ballpark. But this is the number that should really make your jaw drop. They made a model with just 32 dimensions, and it scored a 0.812. That means a model that is 24 times smaller than the best one out there is performing almost identically. I mean, that's just unheard of. So, how'd they pull this magic trick off? Well, it came down to 2 really clever tweaks. First, they told the model, hey, don't just find the right answers, make sure you put them in the right order. That was crucial. And second, they gave the model a little thinking room to process everything before it had to squeeze it all down into that super efficient hyperbolic space. Okay, so this is all cool theory, but what does this actually mean in the real world? This isn't just an academic paper. This has the power to put top-tier AI into everybody's hands, or at least into their pockets. So remember that 3 gigabyte problem for 1 million documents? With this new 32-dimension model, that shrinks down to just 128 megabytes. That's a 96% reduction in cost and memory. It's not an improvement, it's a revolution. And suddenly, the floodgates open. Startups that were completely priced out of this level of AI, now they can compete. Your favorite shopping app could find things for you instantly, on your phone, without even needing an internet connection. News sites could index breaking stories as they happen. The entire barrier to entry just crumbled. So let's zoom out. What's the really big picture here? Well, this fundamentally changes how we can think about building and deploying artificial intelligence. You know, engineers live for a good trade-off. But this is the kind of trade-off you dream about. Let me ask you, would you give up a tiny 2% of performance to save 96% of the cost and the space? Yeah, you would, any day of the week. This is the kind of efficiency that takes an idea from maybe someday to a real product.
Really, the best way to think about this is like a zip file for intelligence. You're taking this massive, complicated thing, you're compressing it down to a tiny fraction of its original size, but you keep all the essential information, all the stuff you actually care about.
And that brings us right back to the beginning, to our search for the Holy Grail. It turns out, everyone was looking for a bigger, more complex model. The breakthrough wasn't a bigger, better engine. It was finding a smaller, more elegant space. A space that was curved in just the right way to perfectly match the natural shape of human language itself.